Alright, budget magic. Blue-red mill for standard. We'll play first. And I guess we can keep this. Mana's a little awkward, but we do have the Tormenting Voice, so we can sack our Evolving Wilds for an island, Tormenting Voice, pitching something, see if we're up against a deck that makes us want an anger or not. Blue-green, eh? So this could be Sultai Control, which was actually one of the worst performing decks at the Pro Tour. Another Tormenting Voice. So I think we're just going to pitch the anger here. Could end up regretting it later, but it seems like the best choice at the moment. Yeah, it looks like Sultai Control. And their opponent's going to Satyr Wayfinder. Alright. So Sultai Charm, that's one to look out for. So it's nice that our opponent milled that. I think we are just going to resolve our Tutelage and go from there. I guess we'll play Mountain, it doesn't especially matter. Got a feeling that if we get a Tutelage down and our opponent doesn't immediately have a way to remove it, that we'll probably win pretty easy. There's a Jace, which is actually pretty fine. Jace helps us along with our goal of milling out our opponent. So it's probably going to be hard to cast Treasure Cruise this turn. So we get to draw a card, mill our opponent. We have 3 cards in our graveyard. Tormenting Voice puts it up to 5, but still isn't enough. I think we're gonna... What are we pitching? Tormenting Voice pitching the Mountain? Get a couple of mill triggers from our Tutelage. And then just play Swiftwater Cliffs, I guess. Pass the turn. See what our opponent does. They can flip their Jace. Probably their play might be flip Jace, get back Sultai Charm, kill our Tutelage. That makes sense. Yeah, it looks like the plan, which is not all that unexpected. But then Jace is isn't going to do much here, really. We don't have any creatures. We get our opponent down to 36 cards. So we want to draw another Tutelage now and resolve it. Tormenting Voice. I guess we Tormenting Voice, pitching Radiant Fountain. That's a dig. Alright, so now I think we'll just pass the turn. And depending on what our opponent does, we can either dig or dictate. Sure, our opponent has a bunch of counterspells. Yes, pump up Jace. Not doing much. Oh, are they going to make a 5-mana play? What do they even have at 5 mana? Oh, this is probably a Den Protector, face down. Looks like. I think we're just going to dig here end of turn. We can dig playing around Clash of Wills. Actually, let's do this properly. We want to dig in such a way that we have spell mastery for our Sigil of Sleep. Well, there's a Sphinx's Tutelage and also an Anger of the Gods, I guess. Yeah, it seems reasonable. So I think we Anger. If our opponent flips Den Protector, then we can resolve our Tutelage. Alright, so we'll play an island. Anger of the Gods. So they get back like an Ashiok or something, or Thoughtseize. I guess a dig is also solid. Alright, our opponent goes with dig. And then we'll resolve another tutelage. And pass the turn. So now our opponent is probably looking for... Or maybe they just have another Sultai Charm. I think these decks only run 2, so the fact that our opponent had both of them is a little annoying. Good news is they can't dig because of that play. And Jace really isn't doing anything. Alright. I guess we just pass the turn with both dictates and try to play 2 dictates. We could have resolved them there. Maybe that was better. Problem is we kind of don't mind our opponent countering them. This deck, I think, closes the game with Ugin. So we want to try to avoid getting Ugined. Alright, Dictate of Crufix. Another Dictate of Crufix. If our opponent wants to dig while we're tapped out, that's fine. Opponent's obviously worried about us having counterspells, but truth of the matter is we do not. So we're going to start drawing some extra cards off our dictates. Swiftwater Cliffs. Valving Wilds. Swiftwater Cliffs. I guess we just play Valving Wilds, sack it for, it doesn't really matter, Mountain I guess. And then go for the Treasure Cruise. Followed up by Magmatic Insight, pitching the Swiftwater Cliffs. And we are just drawing all lands now, aren't we? Alright, pass the turn. That was a little disappointing. Drew a ton of nothing. Like literally all land. We drew a Magmatic Insight and a Treasure Cruise, and got only lands to show for it. Is our opponent going to dig again? The good news is we're much more set up for a control battle post-board when we can bring in a whole bunch of counterspells, get rid of questionable things like Anger of the Gods and Fire Impulse and such. Unfortunately, if Jace actually ultimates, we're kind of in trouble. If we can't kill our opponent before that. Opponent has 10 cards in hand, which means they're going to end up discarding here before too long. I'm going to cast the Thoughtseize, so they're not too interested in trying to ultimate Jace. And Thoughtseize isn't doing anything. Sure, you can take a roast or Sigil asleep, or send to sleep. Sigil? Must be thinking of last week's deck with Sigil of the Empty Throne. Yeah, so I don't know if this is going to work out or not. Our opponent is down to 25 cards, so we don't need to mill that many to win. Unfortunately, Ugin is very bad for us. Yeah, so our opponent has to have tons of stuff like that. Bunch of removal that does nothing. Oh, not more lands. Come on, guys. Not more Send to Sleeps. Alright, Swiftwater Cliffs. Go. That was a horrible bit of drawing there. So many lands. Opponent gets to draw a couple off of our Crufixes. The Dictate of Crufix. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19. Alright, so we only have 8 more lands in our deck. So hopefully we will stop drawing them. We drew like 10 cards over the last couple turns, and they have all been blanks. Opponent's going to discard more nothing. They can't really play Wayfinders. That would be a bad plan for them. What do we get? Roast, Radiant Fountain, Magmatic Insight. I almost think we got to keep doing nothing for now. Just play a Radiant Fountain and pass the turn. If we Magmatic Insight, we put ourselves behind our opponent in as far as cards. So in theory, if our opponent doesn't get an Ugin or something, they will be dictated of True Fixed out before we are. I mean, in practice, that's very unlikely to happen. Well, it's kind of the plan we're on right now. Plus, this doesn't do much. It doesn't give us a way. We can't hit a way to deal with Jace. It just doesn't do anything at this point. So our opponent could flip the Den Protector, get back Sultai Charm, and kill something, but our opponent will probably leave up Counter Magic instead. So our opponent have a Tasigur, I see. Okay. Tasigur is not too threatening either. It's not like our opponent can safely activate it. Ooh, Whelming Wave. Whelming Wave isn't bad. And Treasure Cruise. Well, I think we're going to start with Roast on the Tasigur. Follow that up with our Fiery Impulse on the Den Protector. So our opponent can flip and get back something, but it also leaves them with no threats. Yep, flips the Den Protector to get back Tasigur. Okay, that's acceptable. And then I think we'll just play another Radiant Fountain and pass the turn. We might just tap down the Tasigur on our opponent's turn. I guess the other thing about Ugin is it can exile our Dictates, but it will also get rid of the Jace. Although the Dictates are going to end this game before Jace goes ultimate. 3-5 turns. Well, maybe not. Our opponent, in theory, could ultimate Jace with 1 card left in their library, which could kill us, actually. Well, there's a decent chance we get to do something before that. Opponent goes with Thoughtseize. The flashback ability of Jace actually isn't that bad. This match, in this game, you've actually seen how powerful it can be. Just don't think it's... I mean, it's obviously not Snapcaster, which is what people are comparing it to, but... Double Thoughtseize and stuff like that. And I mean, to be fair, in a regular game, Jace would have died a long time ago, but we just don't have any way of really interacting with it. There's a Ugin. Is our opponent going to exile everything? Yes. Alright, so our opponent's tapped out. This is our window. We need a Sphinx's Tutelage. We have 2 more left. Evolving Wilds. So let's crack this Evolving Wilds, thin our deck a bit. 2 Tutelages, 2 Magmatic Insights, 2 Treasure Cruise, Angers, Alhammeret's Archive. Alright, so Magmatic Insight, pitching an island. Tormenting Voice, pitching Ascend to Sleep. And we ran out of luck. Now I don't really think there's any way we win this game. That was our window to hit the tutelage and mill our opponent out, but we drew a bunch of cards and it wasn't good enough. Because now when we draw the tutelage, it is almost assuredly going to get countered. I think we got a Fiery Impulse, this Den Protector. One just lets it go. Oh, there it was, one card down. Well, I'm sure this is going to get countered. There's the Dissolve. Just play the Swiftwater Cliffs here. We were one card short from getting that tutelage down. Garruk Apex Predator. So now I guess we're just going to tap down both of these. Opponent probably still has more counterspells. That was close. It was close. There was a window, we just didn't quite get there. Well, Magmatic Insight, discard an island. Treasure Cruise. Opponent's going to break out the counters. They're going to mill themselves with Tassiger? Well, you may have a Languish. Well, if our opponent doesn't have a counter, we actually have a chance. Tutelage. Resolves. Treasure Cruise. Did we get there after all that? What are the odds? No, it's not. We're not really going to win, are we? Oh. Our opponent has another Sultai Charm. Well, in response, we get to Tutelage. Mill our opponent. Oh, we have to discard a card. We'll discard Evolving Wilds. Not enough. Yeah, now we run out of cards before our opponent, so that's the game. Oh, man. What? Not only did we almost have it, but our opponent, for some reason, has a million main deck Sultai Charms, which is just weird. So we're going to bring in our anti-control package. Get rid of the angers, get rid of the fiery impulses. I don't know if we can literally go to 0 removal spells. Get rid of whelming waves. Just leave the roasts in. And just try to counter our way through the game. Yeah. Jeez, I was so close. So close. Alright. Game 2. Yeah. Not an exciting hand. I think we might just start with Magmatic Insight, pitch Radiant Fountain to try to get some more lands, some more colored lands. Well, it kind of worked. Got a mountain. Didn't get a second blue source. Still don't have any counters. So now I guess we're on Evolving Wilds. Yeah, another Evolving Wilds. Alright, Evolving Wilds, we can sack for an island. Still can't play Dictate on turn 3. There's a Jace, which we really can't deal with. Maybe I should have left in more removal just because of Jace. Just doesn't seem that threatening or good, but... not an island. So we'll just play Evolving Wilds here so we can get another island, so we can eventually get the Dictate down. Alright, sack that for an island. Even though it's a swamp from Urborg, it doesn't do much for us. Now I think we just play Mountain, pass the turn. Dictate when our opponent taps out, hopefully on their turn. Don't really want to play it on our end step, because then our opponent gets to get the first draw. Alright, our opponent pitches a Llanowar Waste. Was our opponent going to make a play here on turn 4? Possibly. Nope. Alright. Opponent passes. We're going to Dictate here end of turn. If our opponent counters, we get to Treasure Cruise next turn. Alright, Dictate resolves. Ooh, Talent of the Telepath. That's a good one to resolve. And another Dictate. So I think we're going to Tormenting Voice, pitching Radiant Fountain, since this matchup really isn't about life. We get 2 more lands. We will play a mountain, pass the turn, and we're setting up. We'd like to get a negate before we Talent of the Telepath. Our opponent is going to be able to flip the Jace next turn. But if we can find a negate, then we can Talent of the Telepath with negate backup, and that might be enough to win the game. So our opponent gets to draw off of Dictate. Passes back. They pitched a Wayfinder, which you don't really want to. They don't want to play in this matchup, obviously. So we'll go with Dictate number 2. I guess our opponent just doesn't care about the Dictates. I mean, they're drawing cards too, even though I think we get to make better use of them. There's a negate. Interesting. How do we want to do this? I think we're gonna go with Tormod's Crypt. If we go to sack it, our opponent can flip the Jace. I don't know if we want to do we want to do that? Our opponent can loot and flip the Jace. Yeah, let's do it. This makes our opponent loot in response, and oh, they don't even loot in response. Alright, so now we will go with I mean, Treasure Cruise for 1 mana. Maybe that's the plan. Now let's Treasure Cruise first. Talent of the Telepath doesn't do too much right this second anyway. You get a second negate, which is good. And then I think we just pass the turn, and we'll discard Evolving Wilds, I believe. Our opponent loots again with Jace. Pitches Hero's Downfall, which is certainly a dead card. Alright, discard Evolving Wilds. Opponent gets to draw 2. Talent of the Telepath is neat. Now Not only can it hit a hero's downfall and kill the Jace or something, but it also mills 7. So we would like to resolve it. And we don't really mind drawing a ton of cards and discarding, because it's filling our graveyard for treasure cruise. Opponent's playing pretty conservatively. I think we just Tormenting Voice here, discarding a land. Ooh, Alhamret's Archive. Then I think we'll just play Swiftwater Cliffs. Pass the turn, discarding a couple more lands. This way we're leaving up double negate. We are setting up for another treasure cruise. And Alhamret's Archive can potentially win us the game. I think next turn we will start throwing off these Talent of the Telepaths, or trying to. Ashiok. I think we negate this Ashiok. That represents a pretty fast clock. Taking down our library. Looks like our opponent's going to pass. So more negates, gainsays would be good. Disdainful Stroke gets pitched. Send to Sleep. Why is that still in our deck? Tormenting Voice and Island. Alright, so we're going to play an Island and go with Talent of the Telepath on our opponent. See if this brings out a reaction. So we get Thoughtseize our opponent, and also, what can we do with Sultai Charm? And I guess just Hero's Downfall the Jace. So our opponent can flip the Jace in response, and since it exiles, it'll stay alive. And it looks like our opponent's going to do that. They draw and discard. But the Thoughtseize is nice. That was pretty key. Get to see what's going on over there. Opponent's going to negate the Thoughtseize. Alright. We'll just let that go. Pass the turn. And maybe we Tormenting Voice. Nah. We don't really need to. We'll just pass. Opponent gets to draw 2 cards. They can flashback Thoughtseize, but that also means they can't play Ugin in the same turn, which is good. Den Protector will resolve. And then they flashback the Thoughtseize. I think we're going to negate it. That means our opponent's tapped down, although not tapped out. Hopefully we draw into another counterspell would be nice. Land, and negate. Well, that's good. So do we just want to go with Talent of the Telepath? I guess we can... Let's lead on Talent of the Telepath. One goes with a counterspell. Well, we will return the favor with a negate. Hitting a Thoughtseize would be sweet. And we hit absolutely nothing. Alright. So I guess we will just Tormenting Voice, discarding an island. There's a Tutelage. Play the Swiftwater Cliffs and pass the turn. Completely whiffing in a deck that has as many spells as their opponents is kind of crazy. Like, how many spells do we see here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So our opponent can take our Tutelage. If they want to, they can even flip the Den Protector and get back the Tutelage. Or get back the Thoughtseize and do it again. Might be what's happening. They could also be going for a Dig Through Time. Going for Gaia's Revenge. So I guess they're planning on trying to close out the game here. Good news is we have a ton of Tutelages left. We only have 23 cards and we have 3 Tutelages. Have a Gainsay and a Negate, which would be good draws to make sure we resolve our Tutelage. If we resolve a Tutelage, I think we can just win. Especially with counter backup. Radiant Fountain isn't exactly what we were looking for. There's a Tutelage. Counterspell? Tormenting Voice. So what's the plan? We can... I think we're going to lead on Treasure Cruise. As odd as that sounds. To see if we can draw a counterspell. Could also draw a second Tutelage. This also might make our opponent think we didn't draw Tutelage and counter the Treasure Cruise. Alright, so now we go for Tutelage number 1. And our opponent has a Negate. Okay. Then we will go with Alhammaret's Archive. And Swiftwater Cliffs. So we're up to 21. Now our hope is our opponent just taps out for Gaia's Revenge, and then we win next turn with Tutelage. I don't know why they would have gotten back, out of all their options, why they would have got back Gaia's Revenge if they weren't planning on casting it. Well, I guess they're not. Because they just played a Scryland. Pumps up their Jace. Unfortunately, this is not a May, so we are going to draw cards, extra cards with that, whether we want to or not. There's another Den Protector. So our opponent's going to hit us for 3. And then if they flip the Den Protector for a Thoughtseize, that leaves them open to us drawing a Thoughtseize, or drawing a Tutelage and going off. Maybe they just have. Oh, they're going to play Tasigur. There's Tasigur. leaving up counter mana. Well, do we draw a counterspell? Magmatic Insight. We're going to draw 4 cards from Dictates. Magmatic Insight Roast. Alright, there's a counterspell. So now I think we win. Because we get to Sphinx's Tutelage with counter backup. Yep, so we will negate the dissolve. We got there. Whew! Tough battle. So, Tutelage. Then we get to Magmatic Insight, pitching a mountain. Gives us 4 triggers. Does this do it right here? 2, 4, 6. Alright, and then Magmatic Insight, pitching whatever, a land. Get the rest of the mills. Whew! Well, that was quite the fight. Now we just pass and discard whatever, since we have way too many cards in our hand. Hopefully not give away too much information. Don't want to pitch the gainsay for that reason. And there it is. Whoa! The trouble is, this is, we only have 4 minutes left on the clock, so we might time out. So Talent the Telepath was pretty sweet. Happy with that. Yeah, I think we're just going to resubmit. We just got to try to play quickly, since 4 minutes is not a lot to go through our opponent's entire deck. Sure. That's a hand of cards that do things. Alright, so I'm going to have to try to play high speed Thoughtseize from our opponent. Taking, what, Magmatic Insight, probably? Yeah. That's what I assumed. Roast could come in handy eventually. So we'll just play Swift, Water Cliffs, pass. I'm not a big F6er, but when you're low on time, F6ing is extremely important. Mountain, pass. See what our opponent has here. Looks like nothing, most likely. So, let's see. Tormod's Crypt could be good eventually, but we'll just play Island, pass the turn. We want to at least bluff that we drew a counter or something, so our opponent doesn't just slam an Ashiok and kill us. Because Ashiok is pretty bad for us. We don't have a lot of ways to deal with it. So opponent just plays a temple, ships the turn back. We draw another land. I guess we might as well cast this Tormod's Crypt now. If anything, it'll be another card in the graveyard for our dig through time. It's really hard to F6 when you're playing a counterspell deck. If you constantly F6 and it lets your opponent know that you don't have anything. Hopefully this is a Tassiger. That is a Tassiger. Alright. Since we actually have an answer to Tassiger in hand. And now we really can't F6 through our opponent's turn. Because we have the negate, which we might want to use. Being able to kill that Tasker was nice, though. Opponent plays a tap land, passes. We draw another land. Alright, we'll pass the turn. We'd like to resolve this dig through time. If our opponent taps out, we definitely shoot it off end of turn. If not, I don't know if we're just gonna run it out there and see. Gotta guess if they have a counter. Going with the Wayfinder. Well, that's risky. Oh, and they milled their Ugin and 2 Sultai Charms? Guess there's no reason to fire off anything yet. Alright, we'll just pass the turn again. Opponent has 5 cards in hand, one of them's a land. Gaia's Revenge would be kind of bad for us. Opponent gets in for 1 with the Wayfinder. Now I think we're going to fire off this Tormod's Crypt, get rid of the Ugin and the 2 Sultai Charms. And then dig through time, since we can actually do it in a way that leaves up negate. And we get what? Sphinx's Tutelage and Talent of the Telepath, I guess? Would be nice to have the treasure cruises and stuff. Also the Dictate, but what can you do? Kinda seems like our opponent might somehow not have a counterspell. I think we're just going to go with Talent of the Telepath here. I'd like to leave up double negate when we go for the Sphinx's Tutelage. Opponent dissolves it, we'll let that go. And pass the turn. Gaia's Revenge is still a very real consideration. That's a fast clock. Slumguard Drifting Death, okay. That we can deal with. Yes, it has hexproof and can attack, but it doesn't just beat us. There's a Radiant Fountain. So I think we just play Tutelage, play Radiant Fountain, and pass the turn. Leave up both our negates. We can potentially start looting with the Tutelage. But I don't know if that's wise, because if they have another Sultai Charm, which we know they have them in their deck, then we could lose our Tutelage, so I think we don't want to do that yet. Magmatic Insight, can't use it yet. So we'll just pass the turn again. Keep taking our beats for now. Now we will try to elude, I think, end of turn, since we can still leave up negate. And we will discard Send to Sleep, get a little milling. Mill 4, not bad. Oh, we have a spicy sideboard card there. We'll get you Magmatic Insight, pitching an island. Opponent goes with negate. I think we negate the negate. So we get to draw 2 off of this. Gainsay an island. We get to mill 2. Play the island. And I think we just pass. No, I think we got a Talent of the Telepath here. And just leave up 1 counterspell. That was time wasting. Talent of the Telepath. Does it resolve? Opponent goes with Disdainful Stroke, which we will negate. Resolves. We get Sultai Charm, which we can use to destroy. Alright, let's see what our opponent has. 4 cards in hand. Den Protector. They can flip it up to get a Sultai Charm and kill our Tutelage, which is bad. But we have some cards we can draw that kind of just make us win, which is good. I think if we were able to play less aggressively here because of the time issues, that this could have gone better for us. The fact that we had to play really aggressively ended up hurting. We can play Hammeret's Archive, pass the turn back. Yeah, I think I would have played less aggressively if I wasn't trying to turbo mill out before you run out of time. So that's going to end up costing us this match, I think. I think we would have won. And that does it. Ugh. Well, that was close. Like I said, if we could have played conservatively and sat behind our counters, wouldn't have tapped out there, and would have sat behind counterspells, even like the Magmatic Insight and stuff, would have let that go, countered those, and then won the long game. Especially with the Ugin and 2 of the Sultai Charms being gone, but that's the downside of time. It happens. Anyway, I'll be back with another.